To understand the sheer anomaly of Rome's eastern frontier, we have to look at their track record. Gaul was violently subdued. Carthage was annihilated. Egypt was transformed into the empire's personal granary. Rome operated an unstoppable machine of heavy infantry and iron discipline that devoured the known world. But when those same legions marched east, past the Mediterranean basin and into the Syrian sands, that momentum abruptly stopped. Waiting for them across the Euphrates was Persia. Whether ruled by the Parthian or Sasanian dynasties, this was an imperial system with a sophisticated economy, complex politics, and an ambition that matched Rome's own. Over a span of nearly 700 years, Roman armies would repeatedly cross into this territory. They would win pitched battles, sack capitals, and draft treaties, only to watch permanent conquest slip through their fingers time and time again. The Persian Empire endured because it was a geographical and tactical apex predator, perfectly adapted to dismantle the exact systems that made the Roman military terrifying. Before a Roman soldier even saw a Persian army, they had to survive the landscape. To reach the enemy heartland, Roman supply trains had to be dragged across the Taurus Mountains and navigated through the massive Tigris and Euphrates river systems. Once they arrived in Mesopotamia, they found a deceptive trap. The fertile river valleys were punctuated by extreme heat waves and sprawling wide-open plains that offered none of the forests, hills, or natural defensive lines Rome used to anchor its forces in the west. Out on these plains, the Roman military machine, highly optimized for methodical close combat and siege warfare, faced an entirely different kind of warfare. They were exposed to the deadly, harassing mobility of Persian horse archers and the crushing weight of heavily armored cataphracts. We see the ultimate manifestation of this tactical nightmare in 53 BC, when Crassus marched his army into the desert at Carrhae. His rigidly packed, heavily armored legions were systematically slaughtered from a distance by an enemy they could never catch. The physical environment of the East took Rome's greatest asset, its rigid, disciplined infantry, and turned it into a fatal liability. Fighting in the East was a logistical terror. 30,000 men and 10,000 animals required 56 metric tons of daily supplies. Persian commanders exploited this lifeline, trading space for time. They burned crops and poisoned wells, starving the advancing Romans. Even when a highly capable emperor like Trajan managed to push through and capture the Parthian capital, the victory proved entirely hollow. He quickly realized that maintaining the supply routes and garrisoning these newly captured cities would drain the empire's treasury dry. In Persia, Rome was fighting the laws of physics. Every mile they advanced exponentially increased the cost of keeping soldiers fed, making permanent occupation a mathematical impossibility. This financial and logistical drain created a massive strategic dilemma. Rome had to defend borders stretching from Britain to North Africa. Committing the overwhelming force required to pacify the East meant leaving the Rhine and Danube frontiers dangerously exposed to invasion. Furthermore, emperors couldn't afford to vanish into the desert for years on end. Drawn-out Eastern campaigns frequently resulted in military mutinies or rival claimants seizing power back home, forcing victorious generals to abandon their conquests simply to survive the political knife fight in Rome. But even if Rome had solved the logistics and the politics, they faced a final impenetrable barrier, the Persian identity itself. Under the Sasanian dynasty, the state was deeply unified by Zoroastrianism, a religion that positioned the king as the literal guardian of cosmic order. In places like Gaul, Rome expanded by convincing local elites to adopt Roman customs and administration in exchange for power. In Persia, elite status was inseparable from their ancient religious traditions. Adopting Roman ways offered them no incentive, only a total loss of political and cultural legitimacy. Rome's standard imperial tool of cultural assimilation completely misfired. Persian society possessed an ideological cohesion that swords and treaties could never break. The ultimate consequence of this geographic, tactical, and cultural mismatch arrived in the year 260, when the Emperor Valerian led an army against the Sasanian king Shapur I at the Battle of Edessa. The Roman forces were utterly crushed. Valerian became the first emperor in history to be captured alive, dragged away in chains by a foreign king. Valerian would spend the rest of his life as a prisoner. This unprecedented humiliation crippled the prestige of the Roman military and exposed the severe fragility of their entire organizational structure. Rome was forced to accept a hard truth. Persia was a centralized, ideologically driven state that matched their own capacity for war, and they simply refused to submit. The eastern frontier remained a bloody, permanent boundary between Europe and the Near East, a monument to the absolute limits of imperial ambition. If you enjoyed this deep dive into ancient history, please like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to keep history alive. We'll catch you on the next one.